Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Easern, singing and telling stories from the salon on Willow Creek.
The wedding bells were ringing on a moonlight winter's night. The church was decorated, all within was gay and bright. A mother with her baby came and saw the lights aglow. She thought of how these same bells chimed for her 3 years ago. I'd like to be admitted, sir, she told the sexton old, just for the sake of baby, to protect her from the cold. He told her that the wedding there was for the rich and grand, and with the eager watching crowd, outside she'd have to stand. Well, the wedding bells were ringing while the bride and groom were there, marching down the aisle together, while the organ pealed in air, telling tales of fond affection, vowing never more to part. Just another fatal wedding, just another broken heart. She begged the sexton once again to let her pass inside. For baby's sake you may step in, the gray-haired man replied. If anyone knows the reason why this couple should not wed, speak now or hold your peace forever soon, the preacher said. I must object, the woman cried in voice so meek and mild. The bridegroom is my husband, sir, and this our little child. What proof have you, the preacher asked. My infant, she replied. She raised the babe, then knelt to pray, and the little one had died. While the wedding bells were ringing, while the bride and groom were there, marching down the aisle together, while the organ pealed an air, telling tales of fond affection, vowing never more to part. Just another faded wedding, just another broken heart. The parents of the bride then took the outcast by the arm. We'll care for you through life, they said. You saved our child from harm. The parents, bride, and outcast wife were quickly drove away. The father died by his own hand before the break of day. No wedding feast was spread that night. 2 graves were made next day, one for the darling baby, and one the father laid. This story it has oft been told by the fireside warm and bright, of parents, bride, and outcast wife, and a fatal wedding night. While the wedding bells were ringing and the bride and groom were there, marching down the aisle together, while the organ pealed an air, telling tales of fond affection, vowing never more to part. Just another fatal wedding, just another broken heart. I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that grub line on the hot dish highway. Well, that's starting it out with the tear-jerker, Dr. Kelly, the fatal wedding. I've always been a little intrigued by that line. Just another fatal wedding, just another broken heart. You know, I could figure you might encounter a lot of broken hearts. You may even have one several times in your life, but how many fatal weddings do you encounter? No, I don't know. And what we have here is another one of those songs from the 1890s, cranked out by a songwriter, writing for consumption in music halls. Music halls were these urban venues, mainly for masculine entertainment, semi-baudy at times, but mostly sentimental. Oh, and comic and sentimental. It's an entertainment venue. When the Fatal Wedding debuted in late 1894 at the Palace Music Hall in New York City, there was a bit of a controversy. I see a note here actually it's in Boston. The Palace is in Boston. A note here in the Boston Globe. The management of the Palace Music Hall says that there's a bit of a controversy and they will be making their case to city authorities during the week. At this point, we published the words of one of the most beautiful songs ever written. As sacred as many of the hymns sung in the churches throughout the country, yet one of the witnesses at the hearing before the police commissioners testified that this was immoral and vulgar. Let every reader scan it carefully. And what did they do? After the hearing, they doubled down and scheduled a repeat performance of the Fatal Wedding on a Sunday night. Yeah. And yet this beautiful song that appeals to every human heart is asserted to be one that is unfit to be sang at a Sunday evening concert. We renew our offer of $100 payable to any charitable organization, to any person who will find one line in the Fatal Wedding that is immoral, vulgar, profane, or impure in any way, shape, or form. Now that's the song I just sang. Is it a little sappy? Yeah. Is it overly sentimental by our standards today? Perhaps, but no, not by the standards of the 1890s. A little bit of a controversy there, however. Well, what becomes of the song? It's written by a fellow named Charles Harris. In the 1890s, he was known as the king of the tearjerkers, Charles Harris. And his song took off. It was the first popular song. It's sometimes characterized as the first hit song in American history. Sold 1 million copies of sheet music, you see. Wasn't recorded yet for a few years after its performance debut. But the other thing that happened, it began to spread. People passed sheet music around, or they just learned it from one another, sitting at a piano. Or, you see, if I can play it, any string band in the country could pick it up and play it, and they did. And at that point, it begins to appear in the newspapers, and people were passing it around, just like any other folk song among them. And you see, what happened was, the song had gone feral. It was loose. It was being printed and sung everywhere across the country without attribution, variations setting in, so that the version that I just sang, I got from the Grand Forks Herald of 1914, Grand Forks, North Dakota. And it's different than one you might pick up from Oklahoma or one that you might pick up from Montana. And in fact, I've got a version from Montana in the 1920s. It's another one of those popular songs that escaped to become a folk song. And it fits in right along with Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim and all the rest of them. Well, incidentally, this fellow, William Harris. Wait a minute. No. I'm mixing two songs up. This is the one by Gussie Davis. Gussie Davis, the black songwriter born in 1863 in Ohio, worked his way through music college, except he couldn't actually get into the music college, so he was a janitor, and after hours, he'd get tutored by music faculty there. And then he broke into popular music, writing for Tin Pan Alley, including The Fatal Wedding. His best-known song he sang last week, The Baggage Coach Ahead. Gussie Davis, though, labored against a disadvantage, which was obvious. And so he sometimes had to sell his songs at a discount to some white promoter to get them before the public. While he, rather than performing in the music halls themselves, he performed with minstrel shows. I'll mention one more thing about Gussie Davis, this remarkable figure in American music history. He wrote a song called Irene Goodnight. Now you're thinking, no, that's a blues song, that's a Lead Belly song. Well, it turns out that Goodnight Irene by Lead Belly derives from Gussie Davis's earlier ballad, Irene Goodnight. It gets a little more interesting here from the point of view of the prairies. The song that Lead Belly, Huddie Ledbetter, the convict blues artist discovered by John Lomax and promoted by him to their probably mutual benefit. He sometimes said that he made the song up, but family members said, no, he got it from his uncle. His uncle in West Texas. Now, Dr. Kelly and I are just back from Waco, and we drove down from DFW to Waco, and we went through the town of West Texas. So I think it's usually misinterpreted. I don't think Lead Belly's uncle was living somewhere out in the Texas Panhandle. I think he was living in West, Texas, which is about, half hour or so north of Waco, Suzanne? West, yeah, the Kolachi capital. I think that's where the Goodnight Irene maybe didn't originate it there, but that's where Lead Belly's uncle brought it. So all kinds of songs that you don't expect to have some kind of prairie roots at some point. Well, that's The Fatal Wedding by Gussie Davis. Any news from the press you want to lay on us tonight, Dr. K?
Well, today's the last day for people to submit for our Poetry of the Plains and Prairies Award. We have another good, solid submission set to choose from, but today's the last day. Easy to remember because it's also St. Patrick's Day.
And is this again the manuscript that your students will put out as a chapbook and you'll take them out to Braddock to print with the Iron Men?
That's right. So this semester is the start of it, where we host the competition, make the selection, our finalist judge will choose who the winner is, and then next fall we begin with copy editing, designing, and then printing and assembling. And selling, we hope.
We hope.
That's the plan.
Oddly enough, for a university press, you've been selling books, haven't you, Dr. K?
Yeah, yes.
How do you explain that?
Well, we have good books.
Oh, that's it, of course.
They look pretty.
They're well designed.
We have some really good scholarship, and we have, it's becoming quite competitive for what books we can pick and choose from, because we can only do about 10 per year. That's kind of our top end that we can manage.
Yeah.
So, and we're receiving.
How many in a year?
Know. I haven't done a statistical analysis lately, but I'm going to guess more than 150 for a fiscal year.
Wait a minute, 150 manuscripts in a year?
Yeah.
Or proposals?
Yeah.
150 projects in a year.
Submitted for consideration.
Of which you'll publish 10 or fewer.
Well, 10 or a few more. It just
depends, circa 10, same thing.
We'll say 10 on an average. We have done 13 in a year plus converting books to ebooks or Audible, so
Yeah.
those all go in the count, but 8 to 13, so we'll just say 10 is what our sweet spot is.
Well, there probably are some university press authors here viewing tonight who maybe should pat themselves on the back then, huh?
Yeah, we're doing well.
I think the Willow Creek Folk School has done well. We took last week off because we were doing family things and happy to do it. It's also good to be back in the salon on Willow Creek. And I don't know if you're following matters meteorological, but we ain't going nowhere tonight, folks, and nobody else. All highways in in all directions in North Dakota are closed tonight. We could get to town if we had to.
Well, we barely made it. We had an errand. We had to run in town this afternoon, and we could see on our way in on the interstate that our exit on the interstate was being closed off.
The Highway Patrol was in the act of closing it behind us.
Yeah, we had to make quick work of the errand and then come back home the long way before it got snowed over. And we had to go through some drifts to get home.
Well, we don't want to end up some night the way the people in our last song of the evening ended up in 1920.
Okay.
Let's do it. Hey, discovery is a deal with the Willow Creek Folk School. Seems like every week there's something we pull out of not of archive. Well, everything, the world's an archive, but pull out of some unlikely place. Here's another old song that's maybe forgotten, or another version of a song that people knew about that take it in a different direction. It was a couple years ago. I tracked down the origins of the Anthem of the Plains, Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim. And in a series of Plains Folk columns broadcast on Prairie Public in recent weeks, I've been telling the story of that song, which originated as Little Old Sod Dugout on the Claim in Smith County, Kansas in 1880, percolated around in Dakota Territory, and then came back as Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim, spread all over the country to become the true anthem of the Plains. Well, its first publication was in the Smith County Pioneer, the 12th of March, 1880. Well, we didn't have folk school last week, or we would have observed that anniversary. We'll do it this week. And what I'm going to do is sing the first stanza from the 1880 version. Now, this is a story we take from one end to another. There is the origin. There's the headwaters. And I thought, I wrote this thing up, did all the radio programs about it, and then wrote an article for South Dakota History about the history of the song, Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim, and it's due to be published, it looks like, next summer. And like the day after I signed the contract for the publication of that manuscript, what do I find in North Dakota State University Archives, Institute for Regional Studies collection? This. Could you post the Sod Shanty musical score as a link there, Dr. K?
I'll give it a try.
I was looking for something else, actually, and going through a modest sheet music collection there at the Institute for Regional Studies, and I came across a set of sheet music dating from, 1914. And there'll be a link that'll appear under this live stream on Facebook that Dr. K's got posted up there. It's a convoluted link, it's to Google Doc. But here's the front of it, right? It's sheet music to Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim. There's an organization called the Pioneers of Dakota Territory operating in Valley City, North Dakota in the early 20th century. And they began singing Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim. And the thing was, somebody would get up at a gathering and say, let's sing it. Sing Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim. And everybody knew it. They all knew the words and they started in singing. Well, then they got another burr under their saddle. And they had the sculptor, Paul Fjelde, and Wes Anderson, if you happen to be out there, chime in on the chat line there. Paul Fjelde of Valley City produce about a half-size but rather heroic image, sculpture, of a homesteader with his hand on a walking plow. And he proposed to produce the full-size thing to be a pioneer monument in Valley City, North Dakota. Nothing ever came of this. And Wes has been wondering, and I've been wondering, what happened to this? And he can't find it, and I haven't found documentary evidence to locate it either, but still looking. What became of that statue, and why didn't they go ahead and make the whole full-size memorial? Well, I think I got the clues here. Here in 1917, right off the bat, the Great War started, Paul felt he got a draft notice. And so he was a little busy. He went off to service and wasn't producing statues for anybody there for a while. And perhaps they had trouble raising the money because he was getting well known. He was the sculptor who produced the bust of Lincoln that stands in Frosner Park in Oslo, Norway. It was donated there by Governor Hannon, or carried there for emplacement by Governor Hannon of North Dakota. Okay, so I'll sing the first verse from the Smith County, Kansas version of 1880, and then I'm going to shift over and sing the first verse from the Valley City version. And you'll see, same song, but different. Let's see if I can do this now. I don't have enough hands or space here. Okay, Smith County, Kansas, 1881. Valley City, North Dakota, 1914, after that. I thought I'd write, dear Billy, of the days not long ago when we arrived neath Kansas' sunny clime, of the days that were the hardest and the life we thought so blue, and where buffalo were roaming all the time. When roughing it was all the go and trial made the man, no matter if his clothes were somewhat plain. Yes, those were happy days, my boy, if we did have to live in a little old sod dugout on the lane. Now I'm shifting to Valley City. I am looking rather seedy now while holding down my claim, and my victuals are not always served the best, and the mice play shyly round me as I lay me down to sleep in my little old sod shanty in the west. We should do at least one chorus, right? All the hinges are of leather and the windows have no glass. The roof it lets the howling blizzard in. I hear the hungry coyote as he sneaks up through the grass round my little old sod shanty on the clay. So that's our commemoration of the origins and survival and flourishing of the anthem of the plains, little old sod shanty on the clay. We'll let you know if we find that statue. And Wes, you let us know if you find it. Do we have any guests with us tonight, Dr. K?
We do. But we also have a mention that this is the month to remember Hazel Minor.
You know, we'll get there before we're done.
Okay.
I'm glad we're not remembering stuck in a snowbank. Remembering her stuck at a snowbank out there tonight.
Well, we have a couple more soda bread bakers out there.
Yes, indeed.
Ben Kabishta and B. Landing says she's going to make some whole wheat soda bread.
If I did that, it would be a brick, B. I bet she's using Hudson cream flour on it, though.
I don't know. Taylor Brobery, a little bit concerned because he's returning to the frozen north this coming week. He'll be here at Zambro's and I think it's at Concordia.
Suck it up, Taylor. Remember where you're from.
Well, he spotted something that might help him get through. What's the Bushmills up here?
Well, that's for after the program tonight. You know what day it is, after all.
Well, it was noticed. And then Marla is speaking some kind of gibberish. I don't even know what it is. Rock Chalk Jayhawks Wildcats on at 8:40.
8:40?
EMAW. EMA. What's that?
EMAW?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's some kind of Kansas squawk. I don't know. Or is it? I don't know. That would be a divided household there tonight, I suspect, though.
Oh.
Yeah. They each may have to go their own rooms. We'll tune in. Speaking of that sort of thing, though, we got to wind up before 9 o'clock and tune in the Bison women playing their NIT game against Oregon tonight. I believe we can pick up a live stream on that.
Uh-huh.
And you thought you were done with basketball. Well, it's good to have company. This now comes the discovery of the week. Been sitting on this for a couple of weeks because noticed this here before we took the week off, and oh my goodness, this was a big one. You know, it's right up there with discovering the original text of Little Old Sod Shanty on the Claim, or the original Cattle King's Prayer, and a number of things like that we've discovered and brought to light here in the Willow Creek Folk School. Speaking of bringing it to light, if you were around right at 8, you'll notice there actually was a little light outside here. Of course, there's nothing to see except a big snowbank behind the window, but that's nevertheless, it's a little bit cheering to have light on into the evening. What brought that up? Oh yeah, well, bringing folk songs to life. Forgotten ones, but ones that were true songs of the people, authentic stuff, in this case of the 1890s. What I have, well, okay, in 1893, actually on September the 16th of 1893, occurred an historic event on the Southern Plains. It was the event, I think this photo, Suzanne, you've got a link that you can put this photo up for people to see. An image of the run into the land run into the Cherokee Strip in 1893. It's one of several land runs that opened up Oklahoma territory to white settlement. Good news for white settlers, not so good for people who held native title prior to this. No. The Cherokee outlet is the current northwest corner of what's now the state of Oklahoma. Not the panhandle, but the corner of the main body of Oklahoma. It was by treaty owned by the Cherokees, and they'd been leasing it to the cattle industry for many years prior to this, and then it came coming under settlement. Now, I know this sounds a little crazy, but the scheme was, as with the Oklahoma District in 1889, to let people line up on the border and then race in to take homestead claims. A certain amount of mayhem ensues in every case of the land runs of Oklahoma. I always thought, there's got to be some ballads about that. Surely, there probably are a number of them, but I haven't come up with it. Well, here's the story of how there came to be a ballad of the opening of the Cherokee Strip, which now we've discovered. Another one of these 1890s popular songs was by the master of the tearjerker, this guy Harris. And he wrote the song After the Ball, which, again, it's a story of a romance gone bad. This song sold 5 million copies in sheet music. Yeah, 5 million copies in sheet music. Now, how did that come about? It wasn't coincidence. There's some marketing genius, and nobody's written about this. I may have to look into it myself. But the song somehow was played by every musical ensemble appearing at the Columbian Exposition of 1893, which is early in the year. That's in the spring months of 1893. And of course, people attending that from all over the world, but in particular all over the United States. And they all heard this song. And I suspect they were comping people with sheet music, figuring they'll take it back home to their hometowns. And they'll play the song, and they say, this is all the rage at the Columbian Exposition. And everybody starts learning this song, and then they want their own sheet music so they can, every piano teacher wants to teach it to her students, and suddenly the thing is all over the country. That's After the Ball. About 5 months later, the run in the Cherokee Strip happened. Everybody knows this song. And about the time, I think actually a couple days before the run, the song called After the Strip is Open appeared, of all things, as a broadside. Now, we're going back to the very origins of English language balladry, the oldest of the child ballads. The classic canon of English balladry date from the 1640s, and they were broadsides published to sell for a penny, you see, and to distribute. And that's how they came first to be remembered. It didn't just go off into the air. And now, some person who, I can't say for sure, I've got at least 5 names of people who say they're the ones who wrote After the Strip is Open and set it to the tune of After the Ball. Well, who are they? Wait a minute here. Originally, my original version comes from the Newton Daily Republican, that's southern Kansas, 21st of September, 1893. J.E. Richards signs the song that he wrote it. Yeah, well, that's fine, but then what do we say about Bert Dalziel and Charles Miller and Santa Fe, Oklahoma Territory? They published After the Strip is Open, and then they said they wrote it. Huh. Oh, and then Tom Gregg in Neosho in late September of 1893, Tom Gregg said, no, I wrote it. Well, not to be overlooked, Dr. John J.H. Stewart published a version under his name in the Wichita Eagle. Oh, not to forget, in the Council Grove Courier, here's a version by Harry C. Chapman. Was that 5 or 6? I think that was 6 different people claimed to be the authors. And why? Because the thing was selling like mad. And people thought, well, there might be royalties attached, I suppose. I don't know that there ever was a legal royalty case. It would have been tangled for sure. Now, these songs that maybe are published, you wonder, okay, is that song really circulating as a folk song? And the evidence of that usually is indirect, because you find it in a newspaper here, and then here, and here, and it's a little bit different in each place. See, that's folk variation. That's a genuine folk song. People are passing along informally, and it gets garbled up a little bit, maybe even improved as it goes along. But here's a report from the Kansas City Press. Trains going both north and south into the Cherokee Strip, loaded with passengers, many thousands returning from the trip disheartened, poor and sick, thousands of others flocking in. Everyone is singing a parody on After the Ball, which fits the situation capitally. The Courant reports on late September, the Cherokee Boomers have a great parody on After the Ball. Everyone is singing it. Fellows returning in moving wagons hum it in the camps at night near the barns. Everyone, the Brown County World, everyone is singing a parody on After the Ball. This is the strongest evidence I've ever seen of the song being in folk circulation. And I guess I neglected J.E. Richards, who also said he wrote After the Ball. How this song has been overlooked over these years, I don't know. It gets brief mention in a doctoral dissertation at Oklahoma State University. It gets a brief mention in one local history in Oklahoma, but nobody picks up all this stuff around it. Well, here we are. I've got After the Strip is Open. Shall I get started on it? What key? Okay, I can do it. After the Strip is Open. A little maiden climbed an old man's knees, begged for a story, do uncle please. Why are you busted? Why are you broke? Why is your watch up? Your clothes all in soak. I had a watch pet a few days ago. Where it is now, pet, you soon will know. How I lost my money, how I lost my grip. I was a chump, dear, and I went to the strip. After the strip is open, after the run is made, after your horses are buried, after your debts are paid, many a sucker is kicking, many will lose their grip. Many a man will wish he were hung ere going to the strip. I got a claim, child, in that promised land. 12 miles from water, 12 feet of sand. There came my wife, dear, my love, my own. Go hustle water, I'm dry as a bone. When I returned back, there stood a man holding my claim down as a sooner can. This is my claim part, get up and get. I nearly broke my neck leaving the strip. After the strip is open, after the run made, after your horses are buried, after your debts are paid, many a sucker is kicking, many will lose their grip, many a man will wish he was hung ere going to the strip. Now, so far, it's about the run itself, isn't it? I like that line, holding down the claim as a sooner can, because it establishes that at least since 1893, Sooners are cheaters. Now the last verse gets political. It mentions Senator John Sherman, who was responsible for the Sherman Silver Purchase Act of 1893. He brokered it, he didn't start it, by which the country began to inflate the currency. And the writer of the Ballad, one clue to his identity is he's kind of a rock-ribbed, gold standard Republican. I'm back in Kansas, where I should have stayed. I will be contented when my debts are paid. My life is happy, willing to stay, and of the strip we speak most every day. Well, last night a letter came from that man. His name was John Sherman. The letter ran, his silver bill made him lose all his grip. That's why he wanted my claim in the strip. After the strip is open, after the run is made, after your horses are buried, after this trip, we'll pin that one down a little more. Some future session, we'll be depositing that one in the Willow Creek song bag. And I've lost some of what I was looking for here. Sort it out. Just sing along here, sing along among yourselves there for a moment. Yes. No, that's Irene Goodnight. We don't want that. Oh, you see that stack of papers right there, Dr. K? Pardon my absent-mindedness. That's what I need right now. Somebody's mentioned Hazel Minor.
Yes, they did.
There she is, right on the front of it.
And Taylor points out that's in Oliver County.
And people are acquainted, people in this part of the country are acquainted with Chuck Suki's Ballad of Hazel Minor, who in 1920, about this time of year, you see, coming home from school early, in the middle of a blizzard, sleigh tipped over, her brother and his sister, she essentially covered them with a jacket and then lay atop it to try to keep them warm. And then she perished of the cold overnight, and they survived. And there were some difficulties psychologically with that for them, it's said thereafter. And in Center, North Dakota, is a monument to Hazel Minor, and we visited that monument. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit of a botched thing. The town wanted to do a memorial right away, but then somebody said, "Oh no, let's don't make just another monument. Let's build a hospital instead." But they couldn't raise enough money to build a hospital, and so the thing just got away, and Hazel Minor was not memorialized. Along comes Governor Hanna. Same one who put the bust of Lincoln in Oslo, Norway, when he was governor. Now ex-governor Hanna returns in the 1930s at the beckoning of the county attorney there of Oliver County. And he decided this monument has to be built, and he paid for it, and then spoke at the dedication. And that monument still stands there on the county square in Center, North Dakota. Chuck Suki's Ballad is perhaps a better memorial.
Better known.
Yes, and when it shifts tempo in the mid-ballad, up in Oliver County on the North Dakota plains lived a farmer's daughter, Hazel Minor was her name. Oh, that just hurts, doesn't it? In your heart. It's forgotten that 4 sons of another family all perished in the same storm that day. And one other lad, who evidently was of a Ukrainian family, perished in that storm. But particularly forgotten is a woman from Fort Totten, Dakota woman. It's often referred to as Mrs. Whitehead. I will call her by her name, Canku Awanyank. That's Seize the Road woman. A little bit of an ironic name for considering the circumstances of her death. But she set out for home from Devil's Lake and didn't make it. Turned the horses loose. I suppose what she figured was that the horses would wander to the destination or back where they came from, and people would see, oh, something must have happened, and come look for her. That's the only way I can reckon what happened there. Meanwhile, she took off her own coat and wrapped it around her infant son, who survived the storm and lived until 1993 with this memory. Why was she so determined to save that baby? Perhaps it's because she had lost 2 babies 2 years earlier. It might have been influenza, given the time. It's more likely diphtheria. That's a great killer. It wipes out whole families in those days. But she'd lost two babies, a 1-year-old and a younger infant, on 2 consecutive days in July. Well, like Hazel Minor, she sacrificed herself to save a family member, but has been totally forgotten in North Dakota until about 2 years ago, around this time, when looking up things about Hazel Minor and the other unfortunate events around that blizzard of 1920. Press reports, kind of buried, just little things began to surface. As I began to work with this material, of course, was Lent. "3 miles from the agency, snow so thick we cannot see, battling through the wind so wild, then we hear the crying child, shake the depot agent wake telegraph from Devon Lake. Woman, child, and wagon load, through the storm she sees a road. Horses can no more advance, turn them loose, the only chance. Round the child the blankets draw, cries Tatankai Pina. Wonder where she lies at rest, none would know her last request. Hear the axe's cold resound, fires to thaw the frozen ground. May you rest with all your kin, sleep Canku, Awanyank, wind. But comes time, on a somber note, I suppose, to draw this Willow Creek Folk School number 132 to a close tonight. But thanks for staying with us. Some of you for many episodes. And I hope that you, we alike, come out of this with just a little bit more knowledge, appreciation, maybe even love for that land that we call our home on the range. With deer in the yellow plain, we seldom ever heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all the day. No, the skies are not cloudy all day. Dr. Kelly.
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again next Friday at 8 p.m. for more songs and stories.